Welcome and thanks again for joining us on yet another time out on the Constitution, coming to you on the platform of the International Center for Tax Research and Development. For today, we shall be taking a look and, of course, an evaluation, critically too, on the place of small medium enterprises in the economy of a nation as Nigeria. You recall that on this platform we talk about nothing else but that which has to do with the socio-economic and political situation of the Nigerian state, as it has to do with policies of government, programs of government, and of course those other things that government and the people, that is the stakeholders, are doing to better the lot of making Nigeria better and of course a safe haven for all and sundry in our entity called Nigeria. So today, like every other day, we'll be taking a look at that aspect of our economic drive in looking at the place of the Constitution in government policies, programs, actions as it affects other engagement of stakeholders in this business. Well, thank you for joining us. I'll be right back after this break to take a look at the topic on small medium enterprises in Nigeria today.
No love is all we
Welcome back and thanks for being there wherever you are connecting with us on DSTV channel 256, Star Times channel 113, Go TV channel 90, and on Play TV channel 850. We are doing that which we do best in broadcasting, and we're talking about the Constitution today. And we said we'll be looking at the place of small medium enterprise in the economy of the Nigerian state. My guest today on the program is Dr. Femi Egbeshola. He's the National President, Association of Small Business Owners of Nigeria, simply called ASBON, where they talk about starting small and of course growing big. And it is a great honor to have Dr. Femi Egbeshola as my guest here today. We thank you for the honor to be our guest.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let's start from the very beginning. How do we understand, or rather define, or in another perspective, explain for the layman to understand what SMEs is in driving an economy?
Yes, SME is a small and medium enterprises, and it denotes those who are doing business with a capital less than 50 million naira aside assets. When we talk of asset, maybe your machineries, your buildings is out of it. If you are doing a business of a capital less than 50 million naira, then you belong to the SME sector. Another way to it is if you are employing a staff of less than 40, you also belong to the SME sector. So that's the, I think, layman definition of SME.
So if we must understand the place of SMEs in an economy,
Okay.
as it is, given the background of how it should be well understood in terms of its definition or its explanation, how about its understanding and of course its functionality in this respect of understanding its place in the economy?
Well, no economy can thrive without SMEs. We are always the engine of growth in any economy in the world, and then that is because SMEs are those who employ more than any other person. They even employ more than governments all over the world. They pay more taxes than any other person because they form more of the core of the economic state of the country. And that's why it's a sector that no government can neglect. If we neglect it, we are neglecting it to our peril. And emphasis needs to be placed on SMEs if we must grow our economy. In Nigeria, for example, we have about 17 million SMEs in the economy thriving, and they are being able to employ as much as 90% of the workforce we have in Nigeria today. That makes it the biggest and highest employer of labor in the country, and they are also contributing a lot to the GDP of the country. Unfortunately, they are not doing as well as other countries, SMEs of other countries.
And I think we shall be looking at that way you said they're not doing as well.
Yes, that's because there are certain limitations which we may also look at in the course of our discussion today.
So you did say something that is very germane here,
Okay.
that they employ more than the government,
Yes.
and that they also pay taxes more than any other
Yes.
corporate entity. And we need to understand that so that people can really appreciate the worth and the value of SMEs in the
Yes,
economy.
for example, I did mention that based on Smithson analysis, we have about 17 million SMEs. If each SME employ about 10 persons, you can imagine how many that will be at the end of the day. Government can never employ that much. And we have some SMEs that employs as much as 20 or 30, and some less, far less. There's no streets, no town, no city in Nigeria that you will not find SMEs. The person even frying plantain in your street is an SME. He's a small business owner. He's also contributing. You will see him or her
the akara seller, the boli seller.
Yes, you will see him or her employing one or two hand help, doing one or two things and paying that person at the end of the month. That's what governments cannot do on their own, and that's what SMEs are doing. When it comes to taxes too, you discover that from the local government to the federal level, they are the ones that pay the bulk of the taxes. They go there with different kind of taxes, from development levy to personal income tax to company tax and the rest of it. And this contributes in a larger way to the economy, to helping the government run their affairs, the fiscal economy, to improve the lives of the people in the country. And
they must equally benefit from this.
Yes, yes.
And we will come to that. Now, let's understand the roles of SMEs. Having understood the place it occupies in the economy, we've explained how people should understand what it represents, and now we want to look at the importance and relevance of the SMEs in the economy.
Yeah. Like I rightly said, without the SMEs, there is probably no economy. Because where do you buy whatever you want to use in your household? Where will it be manufactured? Who is going to import it? These are done by SMEs. They fill every space of our economy, and you cannot really pinpoint any business activity that does not go along with the support of SMEs. Even in government and businesses, SMEs are being engaged to do one thing or the other to complete the chain of that business transaction. You cannot just...
I think I love what you just said here, the chain. You're going to explain what that chain is to us, the chain in the production process.
Okay.
Right.
So today you discover that we have a lot of made in Nigerian products. These are courtesy SMEs in Nigeria. In some years past, virtually everything we use in this country is being imported.
That's true.
And that's not too good for economy. That's why the value of our naira is falling by the day. But today we have very innovative entrepreneurs who are doing one thing or the other, paying their taxes at the same time, contributing to the economy, employing people, paying salaries, and making the country a better place. If you also look at it critically, you will discover that governments cannot provide jobs for everybody. Even if they want to, the jobs are not there. The corporate organizations too are limited in the number of staffs they can engage. But the SMEs here and there employs 1 to 10 or more persons, and they help to lift the burden of job unemployment,
job unemployment
in the society. Of course, you can also say that many of those who work with the SMEs may be underemployed. They may not be paid as well as they should be, but it is better than not receiving anything at all. Yeah, it's better than not receiving anything at all. If we begin to talk about the challenges of SMEs, I think at that time we'll look at how SMEs can be assisted so that they can really fulfill their duties that they ought to fulfill in our economy.
Yes, I think you've really made very powerful and poignant points here. But let's look at the place of what you talked about, the chain value. I want to understand that. What are you translating to me when you say the chain value of the chain production of the
For
SMEs?
example, we hear of the railroad being constructed by government now. Some people will supply gravel, some people will supply cement, some people will supply maybe water or every other thing that their contractors will need. Who are those that are going to do this? It's the SMEs. If you also look at the NPower going on, the program of feeding the primary school pupils, who are going to do the cooking, who are going to do the sourcing of the food materials and the rest. It is the SMEs. Government cannot come on their own to complete that chain. It's somebody somewhere, an entrepreneur somewhere that will be engaged to fulfill that role. That's what I mean by that.
Well understood. Now let's take a look at comparative analysis. That is, Nigeria is one country, and in business, and for business to thrive in any economy, there must be an engagement with other partners across the globe, which means that internationally, globally, even locally, we must connect in this business drive. Now, if we have to do a comparative analysis of what SMEs are in Nigeria today and what is obtainable, say in Malaysia, in Singapore, say in other developed clime or underdeveloped clime, like some would say Nigeria is an underdeveloped country, where do we place this analysis of where we are compared to where they are?
Well, unfortunately, we are not doing too well. A recent survey says that in ease of doing business, out of the 189 countries being surveyed, we fall on number 78. And that's not too good enough. It means that it's not easy doing business in Nigeria. And that's why we are not doing so well like SMEs of other countries. If you look at China, for example, that you mentioned, they contribute so much to the GDP, unlike here in Nigeria. And it is because they have been empowered by government to do so. It is a deliberate government policy to vitalize the SME sector, and they were able to achieve that over time through very vibrant and well-structured and followed policies of government. Virtually in every household in these Asian countries now, you discover that there's an SME. Virtually in every household. They no longer go looking for government jobs because they feel more comfortable working for themselves, making money in their room. And they're able to also have the self-confidence that owning your own business gives to you when you are making money. Unlike here where you may want to do a business, you go into it, but before long you pack off because the environment is not too right, because you're not making enough money. You now pick up your certificate looking for a job again. That's not like it over there. And this is primarily because government make the environment conducive enough for business to thrive. And that's what we also need to encourage our government to do here. It has to be very practical. Even from the primary school level, government is supposed to instill that idea in us of wanting to become an entrepreneur. If you look at our secondary school curriculum even here now, there is nothing there that encourages you to be an entrepreneur. You have been trained to write JAMB and pass and go to university.
That's more not academic.
Yes, that's not supposed to be.
Instead of skills,
it's not everybody that will go to the university. Right, we have the SSS, DSS system where you have been trained on some vocational courses, but how practical are those courses? How relevant are they in today's world? Can you actually attend some of these vocational programs and come out and be able to compete favorably with other SMEs in here in Nigeria and other parts of the world? These are areas the government need to pay more attention to. Even our universities, I'm happy that some universities now are having vocational programs in their curriculum. Yes, that's good enough. And unfortunately, when you look at those who are actually lecturing these programs, you discover that they are those who have never done businesses before.
So we need people pegging around home.
Yes, you cannot
to drive that
what you don't have.
program.
Yes, so universities need to engage real entrepreneurs to also partner with them in
people like you who are experienced in the field.
To partner with us in making sure that these students are given that mindset of wanting to become an entrepreneur, preparing them to become an entrepreneur, and even practicing entrepreneurship while they're in school.
So all of these facts you've just mentioned, are they reasons why you said we are not doing too well in this country when we look at SMEs, and also saying that it's not easy, it's not an easy business in Nigeria to talk about SMEs? Are these reasons why?
Yes, it's not easy doing business in Nigeria, and that's why we rank so low in the ease of doing business and survey. Everything is not really right.
Where do we place this presidential enabling business environment payback, where government said the essence is to ease the way of doing business in Nigeria?
Yes, there's one thing to talk. Another thing is to walk the talk. We have very vibrant and beautiful policies on paper, but are not really implemented or well implemented. And some that are implemented are not followed up. And when you don't follow up, you will not get the right results you intend to get. That's our challenge here.
So what can we now do so that we can do well in Nigeria in terms of SMEs?
Yeah, I think it boils down to what I said also earlier. Government itself needs to engage those who wear the shoes and who know where it pinches. And these are entrepreneurs. People formulating policies for government in the office may not really be able to formulate policies that will work well with a Nigerian system. Most of our policies are copied from these advanced countries that does not really work with our system here. We need to engage entrepreneurs and leaders of businesses here to see how we can come to the drawing table and get policies that will fit into our system, and policies that will also be monitored.
So we need to identify all of that.
Yes, we need
bring into bear all of your practical experiences of the field, so that we can peculiarly bring out that which will drive our own by our own identity. Is that what you say?
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. We have got it too wrong for so long a time.
By copying.
Yeah,
wrongly.
yes. And it's time for us now to wake up. And I want to use this opportunity to advise the current government to pay more than the usual attention on the SMEs. Yeah, the government has tried in its own way to bring a lot of programs, but you don't just bring out programs. You also look at the result that such program achieved at the end of the day. If it is not achieving enough positive result, it's as good as a failure. Yeah, so we need to pay more attention into implementation of those policies and programs and look at how we can make them get good results.
Before we go into those policies now,
Okay.
I love what you said earlier that we need to come together, bring the pools of resources together,
Yes.
human resource and the other resource that can harness this identification of our own peculiarity. How can we do that?
Well, that's in the hand of governments. Government has ministries that are overseeing all of this. It is for government to...
Ministries like
Yes.
which ministry?
For example, we have a Minister of Trade and Investment. That's a direct ministry when it comes to businesses in Nigeria. We need to revitalize that ministry. We also need to have an economic think tank. We have some governments in the past that had such think tank. I'm not sure that is existing in this present administration. We need to have a business think tank, economic think tank, made of seasoned businessmen and not politicians, seasoned businessmen and leaders of businesses. Associations like our business associations like ours need to be brought into play to also contribute to our culture. Every sector of the economy needs to have a share in whatever policies that will be formulated before it is brought to the public. That will really help a lot. And more than that, no matter how good a policy also is, if the environment is not right, it will not work.
When you talk about, okay, let me let you finish. I don't want to forget that environment which you mentioned.
Okay, when you talk about the environment, the business environment here is not too right. The infrastructure is not right. The road is not right. Power is so epileptic. Even after spending so much billions in the power sector, we are not getting what we desire. If you are not having 24 hours light, we should have something close to that. That will really help entrepreneurs. A lot of businesses are folded up because of this. Access to finance is another big issue for SMEs.
Access to finance.
Yes, it's another big issue for SMEs. In those other parts of the world we are talking about, the Asian economic
Experience.
giants now, they are able to achieve that because they're able to have good access to funding and at a cheap rate. One thing is to have access to fund, another thing is for that fund to be cheap. If it is not cheap, at the end of the day, you will not be able to repay. And when you cannot repay, that's the signal that your business will fold up, because the owner will always come after you, and before you know it, the business will fold up. Yeah, those are the things we need to critically look at. Government too should pay more attention into training. We have a lot of people in business that are not really ingrained in the business of doing business. So government also need to do a lot of training programs to really mentor entrepreneurs. We have a lot of mentoring organizations, but are charging so much. Government should take it on their shoulder to contribute their quota by making sure that mentoring is done for people who want to go into business, starting from the university down to when they are doing their NYSC and even beyond, so that when they want to go into business, they go with the right mindset and they will now be able to achieve better results. There's no better person or organization that can do it better than government, because they have all the powers. We can always support what the government does. Government should actually see need now more than ever before to see how they can really energize and vitalize the SME sector. If the SME is put in its right place, we will not become a mono economy we are having today. We will be able to divest into other things, because I will be able to pay better tax if I'm making profit. But if I'm not making profit, if the environment is not right, I will not be able to pay tax, and that will not help government. We may not also be talking about a lot of finance if things are put in place like infrastructure. If the road is right, I don't need to buy a vehicle every two years. because the vehicle will last me for the next 4 or 5 years. So I will not need to look for a loan to buy another vehicle. If the power is right, I will not need a generator. I will not spend my money on diesel or whatever it is to power generator and have all those heartaches. I will not need that money. So those money I can conserve it. I may not need a loan at the end of the day. Those are the things government needs to look at. And this multiple taxation that is here and there, and the federal government will charge theirs, the state government will charge theirs, the local government will also charge theirs. It become multiple, and you don't see value for what you're paying. It also cripples business, because at the end of the day, if I'm forced to pay as an entrepreneur, I pass the bill to the consumer. By the time the product becomes so exorbitant, the consumer will find it difficult to buy. And that's why you discover that some of the products that are not too good here in Nigeria are even more expensive than the imported ones.
That's right.
Yes.
Because of all of this cost
Yes,
variation.
yes. And when I see an imported product that is well packaged and cheaper, why will I want to go for a locally made one?
Because I have to factor in all I have spent.
Yes.
So means to make my little profit out of it.
That is it. So a lot is in the hands of government if we want to get it right in the SME sector.
Now, if honestly you are just making me really, you are putting me on my toes with all of these exposure, or rather things we should understand better that you are just giving out, is really commendable on your side, sir.
Thank you.
It shows how vast and how well you are groomed. I mean, you are rooted in this SMEs business. But let us look presently at the policies of government in helping SMEs. What are the present policies saying? How is it affecting you when we look at the present policies of government, before we go into other areas in a nutshell of what we've said?
Time will fail us if we want to begin to look at many of these policies, but let's look at maybe 2, 3, or 4. Let me start with NAFDAC. If you want to engage in any manufacturing businesses in Nigeria that has to do with food, food or drugs, one of the major things you have to do according to Nigerian policy is to get an approval from NAFDAC. Getting an approval from NAFDAC in Nigeria can take you 6 months, 1 year or more. If I go and borrow money in the bank to support what I have to start a business, and I am idle, I could not start that business for the next 6 months, what happens to that money? I continue to pay interest. I may end up using the whole capital to even pay interest, and the business will not kickstart at the end of the day. Government needs to look at that kind of policy and see how approvals can be gotten within a very short period of time. That will encourage business. Let's look at another one. That's registration of business. I want to start a business. I want to register my business. The cost of registration of business is more than what I want to use for my business. I want to start a small business, maybe a petty trading along the streets. I want to register a business, and I'm told I need to register it with as much as 50, 60,000, when my working capital is about 20,000. Anyway, you will understand that this government also choose to do what they call MSME clinic around the states. Where they bring together all ministries and parastatals to come together to make sure that you get what you want. That's easily. That's a very noble idea. When you go there, you can register your business in a day or two with a very minimal cost. But 1 day or two in a state will not solve any problem. Everybody cannot be there in a day or two.
Oh, so it's just for that day or that week that is running. It's not what is aftermath. So we thought they said, because I know I was part of it, that they said after that process of the day or two, you still have, it continues like that. Is it not true?
That's not the reality. That's not the reality. That's not the reality. If you want to register your business now, and you go to CAC office, and you think you get all the processes completed within a day or two, then you are deceiving yourself. But one
variance towards that.
But one takeaway from there is that
represents.
If it can work that day during the MSME,
why can't it work?
Why can't it work after that day or days? So that means that there's something wrong somewhere that we need to look at. There's something
wrong.
What
are those likely things to be wrong? Is it
I think
bureaucracy of the process?
Bureaucracy is part of it. Manpower is part of it, and corruption is also part of it.
No, we must talk about it. Yes,
corruption is also part of it. So this slows down the process. But if we are all determined to make it work, we will definitely get there. If only we decide to put the round peg in the round hole, like you mentioned the other time. We need to put the right people in place if things must work. We need to have a very strong complaint mechanism. If you tell me that if I go to a place, I get it done in 2 days and I'm not getting it done, I should have a place where I can complain. and that complaints must be addressed. If I
Instantly.
complain, the other person complains, and it is not addressed, we all get tired of complaining. So
And become the normal thing,
yeah, it become the normal thing.
which is abnormal.
So the next thing is to now encourage corruption. So if I want it, if you tell me it is going to be done in 4 weeks, and I say somebody wants to do it in 2 weeks, I say you
now
have to
cut
pay.
corners
Yeah, you have to pay
to
an
get it
extra
done.
X amount of money. I may be tempted to do so, and that's encouraging corruption.
You
Yeah.
just mentioned 2 points.
That's
You said
encouraging.
4.
If you also look at the issue of importing things into this country, you cannot do certain manufacturing processes without importing raw materials, without importing machineries. If you go through the process of importing, you'll be tired of doing business here. Yeah, it's
It's a hell out there.
yes, it's killing. It's killing. You need to have 9 lives to be able to go
To
through that
survive it,
process.
the process.
Yes, but there should be certain policies that will help you to bring your goods in, and within few hours or few days, get it cleared, and it's already in your warehouse or your factory, and you'll be able to begin and start your business on a good note. These are the things governments need to really work on. When you talk of funding too, we have a lot of wonderful government policies on funding. We also have a lot of intervention programs too to assist SMEs. But how accessible are these programs, are these funding programs? It's close to nil. Yes, somebody can come out and say, yes, it is successful because A has collected, B has collected. But in a population of
the aggregate of
in a
what
population
you
of
measure.
17 million SMEs, and maybe just 10 people collected, is that a success or a failure? Or it is a total
it's indeed
failure.
not a success.
Yes. So one thing is to formulate policies like we mentioned. Another thing is to make sure that that policy is going to achieve its right results, is adaptable and beneficial to the Nigerian SMEs. And another thing again is to make sure that it is monitored, that it is able to get to the right person or businesses that it is intended for, and being followed even after that to make sure that if it is a fund, such fund are being returned back to where it is collected from.
So when we look at challenges now
Okay.
and sustaining, let's put the two together, because you're really just driving me. I really
Okay.
enjoy this interactive session with you.
Thank you.
Let's look at the challenges and the sustenance of our SMEs. First, the challenges, then how do we sustain to make it more viable and, of course, take it to a higher climb than where it is today?
Well, the major challenge of SMEs is the right policies to be put in place. If the right policies are in place, it will really, really drive the SME faster than it is doing today.
When you say policies,
Yes.
policies that we've talked about before?
Yes. Policies that we have talked about before. We also need to fix our infrastructure. We also need to really, really fix our infrastructure. We need to make sure that the taxes are harmonized and are feasible, reasonable, something that can be paid by an average SME. We need to make sure that training and mentoring is done, yes, to SMEs from time to time. Seminars, symposiums should be organized. They are already doing it, but it is not enough. We're encouraging them to do much more to make sure that we are being trained more and more. The education curriculum should be done in such a way that the spirit of entrepreneurship should be in the mind of an average student from his primary school days down to the university level. We also need to make sure that our SMEs are exposed to international best practices. This can be done if there are trade missions being organized from time to time, whereby some SMEs are being sponsored or supported by government to go to other countries to see how it is being done. If they can do it right and come back to replicate it, they'll also be able to train directly or indirectly other SMEs that are around them.
Dr. Egbeshola, you're really a round peg in a round hole. I'm not surprised that you are the national president. I can really feel that your understanding of this terrain very well. Now, you've said all of these. We've also looked at the intervention of government, the way it should come to assist based on all you've said, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Or is there any other way you think the intervention, when we talk about intervention, that could still help drive this economy?
Well, I will go back to what I said earlier, and that's engaging people who are experienced in entrepreneurship. I really want this government to engage leaders of businesses, to engage associations, in whatever they wish to do when it comes to supporting SMEs. Let us leave that era where some white-collar job men will sit in the office, formulate policies of what they don't know. They've not even done a feasibility study. Yes, one or two businesses they've done has failed, and they will now draw policies that will be meant for practicing businessmen. It may not really work well. I want government to engage us more than they have been doing ever before.
Now we must wrap it up. Let's look at taxation. In trade perspective, I'm told that taxation affects this issue of entrepreneurship or SMEs. Taxation in terms of administration, taxation in terms of policy, and taxation in terms of the law.
Okay.
What would be your reaction to that? You want to break it down?
Yeah, well, when it comes to taxation, we as SMEs have been shouting and crying over the years that we are not being treated fairly enough. We are not being treated fairly enough. There have been so many advocacy in this regard. I am happy that last year we were able to achieve a big feat, and that is that we were able to get approval to pay a sum of 10,000 naira as against the big money we used to pay before to the federal government in form of taxes for small businesses. This has not become fully implementable at the moment, or at least we are getting near to that point. That's a good one. And then this should also be followed by state and the local governments. If you want me to pay tax, it must be affordable. I am supposed to be paying tax from my profits, not with my capital. Yes. Not
to pay tax from my profit,
yes,
not from my capital.
Yes, yes. If you look at these other countries we're talking about, when you want to start a business, there are certain tax holidays that are given to you. If I'm giving a tax holiday, it encourages me to go into business. But I register a business name today. I have not even started business. You're already knocking on my door to come and pay tax. You're not even interested in my welfare, whether
or even concerned about how fair I'm doing the business.
Yes. That's not good enough in a country that wants to encourage SMEs. Tax is important to government, but government too should find a way of giving SMEs soft landing so that they will be able to grow. It is when a child grows you expect more from him, but if he's stifled and cannot grow, you don't get what you want from him at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Yeah. So there should be a restructuring in our tax policy to one, segregate and identify
the tax policy.
Yes, and segregate and identify different sector of businesses in the economy and their size. I should not be paying the same amount that a Dangote of this world would pay. So if you say I have to pay certain percentage of my profit as tax, it should be in accordance with what I do. Yeah, not a one size fit all thing. So we should be able to sit down and look at different sectors of the economy, look at what kind of tax policies that will work for those sectors, and look at the kind of incentive we need to give to them to encourage them. If I'm in the mining sector, I may not be able to achieve anything for the first 1 to 3 years. If you now expect me to begin to pay tax immediately I start business, how do I begin to pay it?
How do I make my profit?
Yes. So all of these things need to be identified. More than that is that taxes must be harmonized. I put my vehicle on the road. This will stop me because I need to pay that tax that I'm not even aware of. That would stop me to pay another tax which I'm not aware of. It's not good enough. It doesn't encourage business. So if be a vehicle that is going from here to maybe the island that's supposed to spend 40 minutes may spend the whole day facing tax consultants. They call themselves tax consultants. That's not encouraging business. So government needs to look at all of these and look at ways to bring out policies that will harmonize all these taxes such that if it is to be paid on vehicle, I know that I am paying everything once. Nobody is going to stop me, and no fictitious tax will be brought to me along the way that will disturb my business. We small business owners, we work on time, we appreciate time, and it means money to us. And if anything disrupts that, it causes a lot of loss to us. Some SMEs have just one vehicle for delivery. If you stop that vehicle and you keep it there for a night,
affected
you have stopped that business
for the
transaction
day.
For the whole day.
Dr. Femi Egbeshola, we cannot thank you enough. We say
you
very,
too.
very, very big thank you for these analyses and, of course, this expression of understanding the various views and perspective of how small SMEs really drive an economy and what government should also do to really come clean in supporting and promoting viable and, of course, successful SMEs in Nigeria. We thank you so very much.
Thank you very
Dr.
much,
Femi
and I
Egbeshola.
want to commend you for this wonderful program you are doing. It's really enlightening, and I think this is what we need at this time. And I want to also commend the promoters of this program. I pray that God will continue to support all of you to make this program grow from strength to strength. I also want to encourage SMEs that no matter the challenges that we may be facing in Nigeria today, it is not unsurmountable. It is something that we can overcome, both individually and collectively. I've seen experiences of some other countries too that have millions of challenges, even more than ours, and at the end of the day they survived. And even individually in an economy like this that is not too favorable, we see certain businesses, certain individuals coming up and shining. If they can come up and do it well, we can also do it well. So do not just say because government has not done it well, I want to give up, I will not do anything. Decide on your own that you can help yourself.
We can.
Yes, we can always help ourselves. Yes, and one day we also believe that our voice will be heard by government, things will be done better than what it is today, and the environment will be better, and we'll all achieve and see the beautiful and better Nigeria that we are all looking for.
Thank you very much, Dr.
Thank you
Femi
too.
Egbeshola. Well, that's just what it is today on this side of the segment with our guest, Dr. Femi Egbeshola. We'll take another quick break and bring you, of course, our Youth Winger segment, where, of course, they look at all the issues that complement what the Constitution is doing in driving the socio-economic and political situation of this country, letting the youths have their say in a democratic setting, so that together with what the adults are saying and what the youth are saying, we can have a direction for this great country called our own Nigeria. Definitely, like Dr. Femi Egbeshola said, if others can make it, definitely we also can make it. That's just for it now. We'll take another quick break. We thank you for staying with us, and we'll be right back.
No love is all we need.
Fellow Nigerians, the International Center for Tax Research and Development brought about the program on the Constitution to assist both government and the people. It is important for us to know the way forward. We cannot continue to rely on old system. I would like to point out an important area, and that is the election 2019. The Constitution has provided enough processes for us to be able to elect those that we want. Please, there must be no war in Nigeria. We cannot afford to have any war in Nigeria. The taxes that we pay, the resources that government collect on our behalf must not be wasted on unnecessary frictions, must not be wasted on disputes, must not be wasted on war. Please, we should know that politicians, they love themselves. They will not do any evil against themselves after election. They will always come together. So therefore, my dear fellow countrymen and women and our youths, don't kill for anybody. Don't use any hate word because of anybody. It is your right to elect whoever you want. Do not allow anybody to intimidate you. It is your money that the government is using for this election. Don't destroy government property, because when you destroy government property, we will still be the one to pay for this property. I need to say this because Election has always brought a lot of problems to us in this country, and we don't want that. Let us be free to go and elect whoever we want, and we should not sabotage any plans by INEC. We should not favor anybody to the extent of destroying our properties. Thank you so much for listening.
No love is all we
Hello?
Is that Danger?
And I danger to talk. Who be this?
Your boss. You don't recognize my voice?
Recognize your voice, but I will see your voice, they put money for my account. I beg. Chief Disu. Now you be that? Baba, no verse now. You know, say your voice don't step up, as you said, don't step up now. Your voice don't change. I want to say I don't get this your number again. What's happen?
Forget the voice that changed or your known number. I have a job for you.
A job?
Yes, I'll send all the details to you this night. And I don't want what happened the last time to repeat itself.
Abba, sure you remember say we lost Killer for the last outing?
Yes, and so?
And so it means say the walls don't crack with that. So we're going to need new person to fill in for the strategic operation.
What are you saying, Danger? You are talking too much. I don't have time for this.
Okay. You know that's your son, the one with the America, where they study for Harvard. No say I seen did that place, he get sense where. Now we gonna need making fill in the new position of Killer.
My son?
No, my father.
My only son? You must be crazy. You are out of your mind.
But Bible I say you the crazy. It is we know that's how this thing they go. It say we don't know. You forget say we too we get families, Abi. Every election you go call me Danger, organize your boys, I get operation, I get outing, I get job for you. We go do the thing for you. If you say we don't know what thing they happen, Abi, you forget say I get MSc, Baba. From now on, if you won't call me for work, you go call me for work where they NNPC, OPIC, share. That can't work now I go do now. All those work that don't reserve for our pikin, now we go they call them for. You hear me so? Hello, Chief Disu. I bet you get red button for your phone. Or your presser.
No love is all we need. No love is all we need.
Thank you once again for joining us in this episode of the Constitution organized by the International Center for Tax Research and Development. Over the course of this episode, we shall consider our proposal for the need for replacing the National Youth Service Corps with a National Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme. My name is Dusuma Wola Mubarak. With me is Neji Chinwe and Dumade Samuel. We've divided this topic into 3 segments. We shall address the status quo, what we have currently as it obtains in Nigeria. We shall address our proposal, and finally we shall address how we believe this thing would work. So of course we shall give it over to Dumade Samuel to tell us the status quo.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. As we have seen in Nigeria, there has been an increasing speed in the rate of unemployment in Nigeria. Very few Nigerians are gainfully employed. And this is a very alarming state. The problem is even worsened by the fact that universities and polytechnics in Nigeria continue churning out thousands and millions of graduates every year, which is, speaks well to our educational sector and the need for people to be educated. But it results in an uncontrollable choke in the labor force and labor market in Nigeria. As we have seen, the indices rather of from the National Bureau of Statistics for unemployment is that since 2014, the unemployment rate was 6%. But in 2018, it has received a massive increase to 23.1%, which is rather alarming. And even in the third quarter of 2018, it still saw an unprecedented increase in the rate of unemployment in Nigeria. When we consider the state of Nigeria as a developing nation and the need to develop its economy, we find out that we can't continue to afford such progression negative statistics of unemployment. If people must work, if people must survive, if people must eat, they must work. And then not that Nigerians are not educated, not that Nigerians are not willing to work, but they don't just have the work to do. And then when we have before us the National Youth Service Corps vis-a-vis the National Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme. The labor statistics for 2017 provides that youth within the age bracket of 15 to 34, 61.6% of them are unemployed. Wow. 61.6%. That's rather sorry. That means more than 60% of Nigerian youths are unemployed. And when we consider Nigeria as a very large state, it speaks back to our economy. Our economy cannot improve. Our economy cannot progress if people don't work, and they don't have the work to do. And so we have to find solutions to ameliorate this sorry situation. And when we consider the modus operandi of the National Youth Service Corps, we find out that it serves us no good in actuality. For instance, now, the core aim of the National Youth Service Corps, we say, is national integration. But in truth, national integration is scarcely achieved. What we have in Nigeria is more of national movement and deployment rather than national integration. Sure. We see people being posted from one region or state to another, and after their term or after the service term, they move back to their state of origin or state of residence, and so there's no real integration. Also, we see that corpers are being placed in situations which do not help their professionalism or their personal development. For instance, I have a friend of mine. He lives in Lagos and schooled in Lagos. He studied communication and performing arts, and therefore his National Youth Service, he got deployed to Sakwato. Now, where he works in Sakwato, he works in a radio station, and then the radio station operates 3 times a week. Wow. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Now, not that he works fully on his day, which is Wednesday, but he works on a program for an hour or 2. Wow. That kind of person now, I don't know the kind of experience he will be able to gather from the little time he has spent. And so we find out that the National Youth Service Corps does not actually help people, does not actually supplement the theoretical learning they've learned they've gotten from the tertiary institution. We see corpers being placed in life-threatening situations. For instance, corpers being used as electoral officers, and we know what happened in the just concluded elections. We see corpers, where we saw corpers running for their lives, some being killed, some having to rescue their colleagues, and it's really sad. And so we find out that there's no obvious utility of the National Youth Service Corps. It doesn't actually help persons that have just gone through the tertiary institution. When you find they are utterly baked, they need to transform what they've just learned into practical manifestation. True. And so they need to learn how to make use of all these things. So, and if I for one would not feel the National Youth Service Corps is the way to go immediately. So when we consider the statistics, when we consider the situation, we find out that the National Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme is actually a better way to go. And then we find out that the National Youth Service Corps is only for graduates. Yes. That is, people that have gone through the university, polytechnic, or college of education, whatsoever. But the National Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme will be open for youths. A lot of persons do not have the opportunity to go through the university education or the polytechnic, tertiary education. But when this National Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme will be open for all, a lot of people have the ideas. The ideation is there, but they just need the platform and the know-how to execute what is in them. And so when we consider the sorry state of the employment scheme in Nigeria and the status quo, you find out that the National Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme is actually the way to go. And it should.
And moreover, in addition to that status quo, arguments, I personally feel that we have to consider the fact that startups have continually been failing in Nigeria. 2 things basically. First and foremost, there has been steady decrease in the number of startups that created in Nigeria in the federation. Secondly, there have been steady increase in the number of failures of startups. This also adds to the status quo because the matter of unemployment feeds on itself. Students go to school, learn one thing or the other in the theoretical aspect. They go for a service of 1 year where they do not gain any practical functionality. Then they come back to the labor market hungry for employment without having the necessary toolkits to get this employment and all of these things. And then startups and entrepreneurial programs that have allowed them to develop themselves are also failing due to lack of experience and expertise to actually navigate the treacherous waters of entrepreneurship. What do you think, Chinwe?
Well, personally, I think when the NYSC was brought into light, it was a brilliant scheme, right? This was a scheme to integrate Nigerians, a whole lot of Nigerians that were already not tolerating each other. But the problem is that the system has changed. Nigeria has changed. Youths have grown. People who you were trying to curb that time, they've now become adults. They are now in the industry. But what you have now are people who are already brighter, people who are more exposed to a different system. But the NYSC is not changing. The NYSC is not encompassing. It's not being able to.
It's not meeting
realities. Because these people are brilliant. You have a lot of brilliant Nigerians, so many brilliant people in the country. But the NYSC scheme cannot give them enough utility to be able to be productive.
Express their
yes,
ingenuity.
And as I believe, the most patriotic thing you can do to your country is to advance your country.
True,
definitely.
For me to serve in Jos, or for me to go to Oyo State to go and serve in a secondary school where I do not know who, I do not know what I cannot deliver. As opposed to me actually creating a service, a product that we can import, export, something that can give in much more financial benefit to Nigeria.
Definitely developing yourself on the country.
Better. It's better than that, but because I feel like at the end of the day, what do we want to get? A better Nigeria. We want to advance from a third world country to being a first world country. We want to be on the panel of the G7. That's what we want, and we can't be that by teaching secondary schools.
Definitely.
So that's just it personally for me.
So basically, we all agree that the status quo does not serve the functionality and the utility we expect of it. So, of course, let us hear our proposal from ICTRD and the Constitution.
So, as I said, Nigeria has so many vibrant youths, and as startups are continuing to fail, so this is very key in any discussion. You understand that the employment space is being choked up, and you are churning out more graduates year in, year out. There's no space for the graduates to go.
They're already there, then others
exactly. Others are joining. And then there's no system to ensure that these ones who are coming, these ones who are unemployed, can actually create something for themselves. The little of those who can actually start something for themselves, the environment, competition is not viable because they don't have enough resources. They don't have enough manpower to do what they want to do. So you're telling people of 1 year of business to fight people of 10,
50 years, 70 years, a decade, century.
And these are students that were trained. These are people who have been in schools, been in and out of schools. They've tried to start up something, if not for the fact of you want to help your citizens, for the fact that they are brilliant people.
True.
So I propose that the National Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme, what it should do for us is because a lot of Nigerian youths are being taught entrepreneurship in universities. Even from your secondary school.
Yes.
People are already learning how to make money because money is why you go to school. The safest means of making money is through education.
True.
So that's why people go to school, to be better than who they were before. So a lot of them are already learning how to make money. They're learning the theoretical aspect of it. But the NYSC scheme is not expanding what they know. So what this scheme would do for us is that it would allow people to either start up their own businesses or to work with certain businesses who their personal career and professional path aligns with. Because as a human being, it's important for you to know that a lot of people don't know what they want to do because of the system does not allow them to know what they want to do. When you give them an option, do you want this or do you want this? They are forced to make a choice. So you put them in a situation to know, what do I want to do? So people begin to make informed decisions, not just going to where the state
crowd or
exactly.
Going with the flow or
so you allow
like
them to make informed decisions. Do you want to start up something by yourself, or do you want to work with somebody who you see a direct future with? And then when individuals are allowed to make that decision, right, you see people are much more better. People are much more beneficial in what they. It's let's bring it down to a logical system. As opposed to when they do random balloting to where do you want to go to, right? They might post me to somewhere or they might put me somewhere I don't like. But when you ask me, where do I want to go to? What is your genuine reason for going to where you want to go to? And I know that. You can easily see that this is a bright mind. This is somebody that needs to be developed. It's the way that can produce Nigeria into what we want to be.
Yeah.
And then when you give that person the necessary resources, that person will get it. So the National Youth Employment Scheme entrepreneurship. What we would do for us is that we feel the government should provide certain manpower, certain utility that these startups will need.
No love is all we